Welcome to the Creative Condition podcast with me, Ben Talon. I'm a storyteller helping people make an impact through illustration, creative coaching, writing, and a lifelong love of creativity, a fundamental pillar of human happiness. And now I bring my 20 years experience to you, the listener, through ongoing personal exploration and the shared experiences of others. Through interviews with thought leaders in and beyond the creative industry and personal inquiry, I'm here to help you maximise the human in your creativity to thrive in the age of automation. The show has been supported from day one by Illustration X, a leading illustration agency representing a shining global roster of illustrators and animators over at illustrationx.com. Foilco, suppliers of the world's widest range of stamping foil shades and finishes to the print industry. Foilco were the very first foil company to set up a foil recovery scheme and be certified as zero foil to landfill compliant. Paradiso Institute is a non-profit cultural organisation built around a simple idea: creative lives require responsibility. Leadership and endurance and care for the body and mind shape the work more than talent ever will. They bring together people across borders and generations who are willing to commit to depth and long-term contribution. They value real encounters, shared experience, and giving back to the communities that formed them. Their attention stays on the work that holds over time. And please head to ui.org.ua to see the work of the Ukrainian Institute, who need your help to amplify the voices of the brave Ukrainian creative community during this brutal time of war. The music for the show, as ever, is by Dirty Freud, who you can listen to now on all good streaming services. For creativity resources for all budgets, from one-to-one and group coaching with me, to the reading list, podcast archive and creativity diary, head to thecreativecondition.com.
If history is a way to know what happened, art is a way to know how it felt.
Joined by Archana Srivastava, artist and historian based in Mumbai, India. We're talking about spirituality, we're talking about depth in artwork, how it moves people, how it brings on revolutions, how it causes change and sparks new ideas more than anything else out there, more than governments, more than politics. It's a deep one. Strap yourself in. This is the Creative Condition. How are you doing, guys? My name is Ben Talon. I am the host of the Creative Condition podcast. I am the founder of the Creative Condition, supporting creativity for you lot, elevating your creativity through coaching programs, through podcasts, through reading lists, through diary entries, written pieces, you name it. I've been doing this stuff for 11 years. I love it. I'm obsessed. It is a life cause for me, and I'm glad you could join. If you're new to the show, welcome. Please do consider a subscription, a little review or a rating, and telling a friend. It really helps to support the show and get behind this cause of mine, which is elevating creativity for people. So today I'm joined by Archana Srivastava. Dr. Archana Srivastava, I should say. She's an artist deeply rooted in Indian history and culture. Over the past 2.5 decades, after initially exploring various genres, she embraced figurative composition as her signature style. Her solo exhibitions such as Montage, Reflections, Divinity 2, and Spiritual Reflections have explored themes ranging from Gautam Buddha and classical poetry to Krishna's Leelas and Vedic spirituality. So you guys will know I've been through something of a midlife crisis recently, and I have gotten more in tune with Buddhist teachings. It's something that's given great validation to the way I always saw the world. It's interesting stuff. We're going to get into that. We're going to get into the power of art, how it moves people, starts conversations, revolutions, and all sorts of good stuff. So I hope you enjoy it. Get in touch. Let me know what you thought. Ben@bentalon.com. Check out all the sponsors that I mentioned at the start of the show and the music of the wonderful Dirty Freud. And without blathering on, let's get to this conversation. Oh, and if you do want to work with me one-to-one as a coach, get in touch. I've heard from a couple of listeners recently, which is really exciting, starting some new coaching programs and talk about how I can help you with this bank of experience and understanding of creativity and the creative industry. So give us a shout, Ben@bentalon.com. But that's it. Let's keep it brief today. Let's get into this chat with Dr. Archana Srivastava.
Since childhood, I was surrounded by people who practiced spirituality and who practiced art. To begin with, my parents, both are very spiritual, and my mother especially loved art, loved sketching, painting, and my father was a big art critic. He used to appreciate art a lot. So this was the atmosphere. My eldest sister, she's also an artist, and she did receive the formal training in paintings and art. So I was surrounded by artists and spirituality from the very beginning. So that explains my background of in art and spirituality. So here, my father will subscribe to various religious or spiritual magazines. They would come with illustrations. Suppose there is a depiction of karma. If you do good karma, you go to heaven, you are received by angels. If you do bad karma, you are received by devils. And those illustrations will play on my mind for, forever. I would think about it. It made me, it was became a moral compass for me, at least, and my creativity stems from that very root, where I saw the illustrations, where I saw we believe in personal God, that is Lord Krishna. And since it is a personal God, there are various depictions of Krishna. And I was greatly fascinated by that. And that is, I think, the root of my work, my body of work.
And that's really fascinating to me, and I have to imagine that this would be not uncommon in India. I say this because growing up, I grew up in West Yorkshire in a kind of industrial mill town, and yet my mother would attend Buddhist classes and go to meditation from the time I was around maybe 12 or 13. So it was quite uncommon where I was from to see kind of Eastern iconography and Buddhist, mandalas, and she had a shrine in her room and Shiva and all these things that friends would come to the house and go, "What is that?" They'd never seen anything like it. But to me,
Like
this
that.
was quite normal, and I found it quite intriguing and visually interesting, spiritually interesting. And yet, it wasn't until recently, into my early 40s, and having suffered something of a harsh time with anxiety, that I really started to move towards kind of Buddhism and spirituality in my own way. So that's just why I find it completely fascinating. But for you, was this a common part of the visual culture growing up? Were other children that you knew also this way inclined?
First of all, very interesting to know that you are into Buddhism, Shaivism, and since very childhood or teenage, you were exposed to these faiths or streams. And since you talked about Eastern iconography, I learned iconography as my academic subject. So, your second part of your query is it very common? Yes, it is very common, but the way I depict that is uncommon. There are various, it is it is embedded in the folklore of Indian palette or Indian societies, where it starts with lullabies, like we talk about Krishna, Ram, Shiva, Buddha in our it becomes a sleeping song for children. And then it will begin like this, that you see there is so the advertisements are based on the religion, not religion, I would say, per se, the legends and the folklores. So you can't escape it. First of all, you can't escape it. But seeing it the way I see it, that is little uncommon, and people admire that, because I draw the attention through my body of work towards the existence of soul. So, making them realize we are not this body. This is a designation for this lifetime only. By Archana, a painter, a gallerist, a curator, uh, an academician, all in this lifetime. Ultimately, my journey is this is a part of my journey. My journey is long, and it should end in either merging with God or being in companionship with God. So all these aspects are uncommon, but otherwise, escaping these legendary characters. I won't say mythological character. When the way I say mythological, it becomes a myth and it shows it did not happen. We are imagining it in my mind. So I'll say these legendary characters like Ram, Krishna, Shiva, Hanuman, all these Durga, all these characters are, very much there in common Hindu or Indian lives, I would say. Even those who are Christians, who are Buddhists, who are uh, Sikhs or Muslims, they also encounter these words, and everybody is very respectful towards each other's religion. Forget about the news. News has to be very sensational, so they cook up things. But mainly, I have had uh, friends in my classes from all over the religion, and we were really very respectful towards each other, and we were very inquisitive about each other's religion.
That's great to hear. Yeah, and there's. I've just always been very curious. I haven't ever considered myself a particularly religious person, but I've always been very open-minded around spirituality and just combining the things that I observe in the world with the way I feel about things, and of course my creativity. The outward expression of something felt has always been a huge driver in my life. I know you had something of a different journey in that regard. Am I right in thinking you studied history?
Yes, I studied history. I did my PhD in history. So I studied history very deeply.
And what was your original interest in history?
So my history, especially my PhD topic, pertained to social and economic history. It was not political history, because when you are doing research with, that is PhD, Doctor of Philosophy, Doctor of Research, you have to take a subject which has been not researched upon. So the particular period I chose for my PhD, that is early medieval history of Deccan. Deccan is a particular region. Lot of research had already been taken. I did it in 2004, long time back. Till that time, some political research had happened. So I left that period. My PhD guide suggested this period, socio-economic history of early medieval era, uh, socio-economic history of early medieval India. So, with a special reference to Yadav dynasty or history of Deccan. That time in Deccan, Yadavas ruled. So, Yadav was a dynasty. I did my research on social and economic history. When you do research on social history, position of women, particularly in India, is taken into account. A society, how progressive it is, depends on how its women are treated, especially in Eastern countries where, it was not very liberal when it came to women. So, position of women and society, even religions were studied, because India is a land of religions. Many offshoots of religions, like there is a faith called Mahanubhav sect. There is a faith called Nath sect. There is a faith called Veerashaiva sect. All these are offshoots of Hinduism. They took place, and they took place as a result against few malpractices which were happening. I studied those religions also, those faiths or beliefs or sects also. So position of women and generally the society, how it was how they interacted with each other, what was the mode of in economy, the modes of trades, transaction, through numismatic evidences. We talked about the coinage, what coins, types of coins were there, all these things. And when we are talking of coins, I am very tempted to share with you this very special aspect of historiography. Historiography is a stream which teaches you how to write official history, like history of civilization, history of races, history of mankind, not the history of your particular family, because that is also a history. But when you are officially writing history, as a historian, you come across this word called historiography, science of writing history. And in science of writing history, there are two kinds of sources which we take into account. One is the primary source, one is the secondary source. Primary sources are those which belong to that era, like inscriptions inscribed during that era, writings of that era, be it secular literature, be it religious literature, or the architecture of that era, coins of those era. So these kinds of sources make for primary sources. And secondary sources. Secondary sources are those sources which are based on primary sources. Because suppose in 2004, I wrote about something about socio-economic history of early medieval era in India. Somebody who's doing PhD in 2026 will also take into account my writing. Maybe he disagrees with entire writing of mine, and he has to present some substantial evidence to disagree with that, but that is also taken into account. That is secondary source. So primary sources are sources belonging to that era. Secondary sources are the sources which are based on primary sources. So when you take into account history of early medieval era, then you come across religious literature and secular literature. If you are writing a history of India, you can't deny religious literature, because in each era religious literature is being produced. But many historians, they make this mistake that they totally omit the religious literature, saying that it's emotional, it's not logical, it doesn't pertain to, we can't take into account the religious sources because it might not be very logical or very correct or to the point. So here I'm talking about one text or one book pertaining to that particular era called Gyaneshwari. Gyaneshwari is based on, it's a commentary on Bhagavad Gita, but what you said, it's a commentary on Gita, which was spoken by Krishna. So that particular commentary says, I'll first explain to you in English and then I'll tell you how it relates to economic history. So this particular, which is purely written from religious perspective, it says humans are like sack or bag of leather. They are worthless till the time the royal seal or no, till the time the seal of Ram's name or Hari's name is inscribed on them. So what does it show? It just shows that the poet is emphasizing on Lord's name, Krishna's name, Ram's names, Hari's name. But it has a very deep economic implications. It says that till the time seal of Harinam or seal of Lord's name is inscribed on them, it is worthless. Similarly, humans are worth, and it does say later that what does it, I'm trying to come to this conclusion. It is a very religious thing and you may omit it as a historian completely. But if you are the poet is talking of seals, if the poet is talking of leather, what does it show? That time, leather currency was prevalent. He said that the humans are worthless like a piece of leather till the time Lord's name is inscribed on them. So it shows till the time royal seal is inscribed on the piece of leather, it is worthless. And as soon as the royal seal is inscribed on a piece of leather, it becomes worthy. It has some price. So I can show you the connection where religious literature can show enormous light on history of a particular region and era.
Yeah, and did you feel a sense of magic when you engaged with history? Did this illuminate you in a sense? Because I'm interested in that connection. You know, there's this wonderful triangle almost here now in your life of spirituality, art and history that's present. And I see the links across all of them. I've always been very open-minded with creativity and art and the stories that we tell. How did you feel, when you would encounter these
Yeah,
stories from
yeah.
the past?
It's a magical experience. Obviously, to know how they felt, how they behaved, how much far we have come, how less progress we have made, how advanced they were, and we did not, act upon it and did not build from there. So it is magical, of course, and it is it's a learning experience as well, because you can have a better tomorrow if you know what you did wrong yesterday. So as a compass, it is very, very important. It is very useful to us. Secondly, this triangle of art, spirituality, and history is always playing in my mind. So if you see my artwork, if you see my writings, if you see my speeches, all have some intersection. I'm always standing on the intersection of these three, because learning history or studying history made me very spiritual also. You will ask me why, how and why. I'll tell you, when you see the history of 100 years of a dynasty, of a family, of a regime, of a region, confined to 2 pages of a big book, then you see the futility of war, of bloodshed, and of, transient nature of body and eternal nature of soul. If history is a way to know what happened, art is a way to know how it felt. The emotions are preserved there. So
Yes.
that is, I am always that this relation of brush and canvas, mud and artist should not end. If it becomes digital, we'll forget how it felt. Because when you are putting your feelings into your artwork, it is much different. It is for the posterity to preserve it, to know how it felt.
So, did you always plan to? Did you still do art even though you didn't train while you were studying history, or did you come around to that after you'd finished studying?
Oh, yeah. In fact, I had been painting since I was a small child. In fact, I will scribble on any surface I found to be interesting. And my parents were very encouraging. They were great parents, and that's why I'm here. So I would be painting since childhood. My father would take me and my sister to various competitions which happened. They were also mediums of knowing that child is can do well in painting or in art or visual arts. And both of us would get certificates in our respective age groups and all. She's senior to me, elder to me in age. So that was one way, and I kept painting, I drawing or sketching. Very interestingly, I would always, when I would solve a problem or write a question and complete a task, I would draw something on the last few pages of the notebook. And sometimes those pages would exceed the number of serious writing pages. So this is how I kept moving. And uh, fortunately, I was very good at acads and all, and in Asia there is lot of emphasis on completing your degree and all. And my parents felt that art can be pursued side by side. In a way, it was good that I did not join a formal art school. I'll tell you why. Because they say it takes time to erase your guru's style or your teacher's style and come up with your own. So that way, technicalities I learned from the masters, I would say. Because very early on, my sister was a kind of serious painter. So I knew how the canvases are mounted, how the primer is applied, and how the varnish is applied, and how colors are mixed. So since childhood, I had this education. There were art classes in each standard or grade I attended, because art is a compulsory subject, fortunately, in everywhere in the world. So that way, technicalities I learned, and later on, I honed my skills under masters, because I lived in various cities of the country because of the transferable nature of job of my father and then of my husband. So my husband, being a bureaucrat, he was posted in various cities of this Maharashtra state, and there is a very art oriented city called Kolhapur. There that time three masters were residing. To name it them, it is G. Kamre, Chandrakant Mandre, and Vadangekar. These artists are known, taken very seriously here and everywhere. Their artworks are great. And two of them went on to, get Padma Shri, which is civilian award. So they trained me under them. So creativity has to flow from within. Technicalities you have to learn from outside. These art schools teach those technicalities. I am really, grateful to these art schools who are creating now. As a gallerist, I know whom to select, because they have this formal training, degree, or certificate. I always respect that as a gallerist. But as an artist, I feel creativity has to flow from within. You join any art school, you can learn technicalities only. You can learn the art of preserving a canvas, making a canvas color friendly. But if you are working in some other medium, how to uh, mix the clay and make it more, flexible, those things you learn there. But creativity has to come from within. And with me, I think I am fortunate, it's in my DNA also. So, and I whenever I think you are an illustration artist, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
So I think my artworks are not illustrations, obviously, but very influenced by illustration, where I am saying, things which need to be explained in a manner on the canvas. So my artwork, first of all, have always been very thematic. And if you are explaining a theme, it has illustration has to come in picture. It can't be just the forms randomly put there. My forms are very carefully placed to convey a message.
Yeah. The idea of creativity coming from within, and you also mentioned the word flow there. These are big things that I think people overlook. As you say, they move towards technicality and execution and don't always consider listening to what's going on within. Have you always been quite open to that? Because I have, mainly over the years, I've always trusted my inner feelings, even when logic wanted to talk me down or said you should be doing this, or you should be going a different direction. When I felt that sense of magic and the flow, it felt to me as if it connects me to something outside of myself, that tether from within. Now, maybe that's getting back into spirituality, but to me, it completely is. I find that when I create and I feel that sense of magic, it does feel like magic to me, and it does feel like it connects me to something. Did you get that same feeling, and is that something you trust?
Exactly, exactly. In fact, what you feel very strongly about comes out very natural and spontaneous on the canvas, and viewers can connect with it. So, with that idea, one should paint what one feels very strongly about. For that, one has to listen to what's going inside. Most of the people are stuck in technicalities and they ignore inner feelings, inner words.
Yeah, and I find that whenever I do that, I find that leads me to frustration and the wrong path for me, and things that are not aligned almost.
True.
And has the response to your artwork, you said about the careful composition and trusting the feeling within, do you find that the work carries resonance, and has that been something that you've seen in the response by the viewer?
Yeah, in fact, that is the success of an artist when viewers can resonate with your work. And I have seen it multiple times. Viewers, even some of them crying and telling their stories, their own stories, narrating that how it connected, the artwork connected with them. One of them, if you have, we can talk about here. So I was displaying my artworks way back in 2002 in Jahangir Art Gallery. Jahangir Art Gallery is a famous art gallery here, and it is on the tourist map of Mumbai, the city where I live in. So each tourist bus would stop there. Tourists will come inside, watch the displays, because there are three, four art galleries within the gallery, and they would then leave. So, in fact, I remember one during this show of 2002, one of the tourists, he was probably from Denmark. Don't remember his nationality now, but he was from Europe, and he came and sat with me when I used to be on the table during the display, and there used to be comment book. So first of all, he came and asked for the permission to click the artwork. That time, these mobile cameras were not there. He was carrying his own Canon or Yashica camera. I said, yes, go ahead and click it. He clicked the picture, came and sat with me. I just moved the comment book in front of him to pen a few comments. He said that after penning the comment, I'd like to talk to you. I said that, yes, most welcome. He commented, and then he said that, can I share something with you? I said that, yes, most welcome. He said that this painting's picture, which I have clicked, is going to give lot of peace or solace to my wife. I said that, how come? So he said to me, he removed his wallet, showed picture of a young lad. He said that, see, this is 18-year-old boy. He's my son. And he died in a car crash 6 months ago. And this painting is going to give calm or peace to my wife, because now his soul is with the God. He's not with us, but his soul is with the God. So this is how it resonated in that particular painting which he clicked. I had showed how this soul, which is ever free like a bird, is captivated in this cage of body. Then the whole idea of human birth is to get released from this cage and attain that eternal abode or home. So this is how I had showed this, and it clicked him. So he clicked the picture also. The idea resonated with him. So there had been multiple cases where audience have said that it really, they could really connect with the artwork.
That's really profound and powerful. And I think there's something beautiful about the act of making the work, because you believe in that creation and it has to come from within. And then we have to release it and trust, because you could never have predicted that situation. You could never have known that person's story. You could never have engineered that response. So you have to do it blindly. You have to trust. That's where faith comes in, I think. You have to make the work, trust the feeling, because when you feel that connection to magic, to higher forces, however you want to term it,
Yes.
To me, it's then wonderful. It's a new adventure to see how that will resonate with someone. And
Absolutely.
you just don't know. And so I think that's a really beautiful story. And then to go back to the history, so that also speaks. I had a conversation with a friend recently. I've been helping a friend to write his book. He's a designer. He's writing his experiences and about creativity and culture. Really great experience. And we both shared the feeling that books whisper to us. So, this sense that sometimes a certain book will just present, it's been there all along, but it will just present itself at the right moment. Something will implore us to take it from the shelf. And when you open it, it's, on the page is something relevant to a situation. This kind of ripple, is echo through history, I think is beautiful. And I think that I know this is something
Then I
that
would
you.
say, Ben, that art and literature, visual arts and literature are performed arts. They are not performing art. In performing art, you immediately get the reaction. You are singing a beautiful song and people are clapping. You are, you are reciting a poem, people are clapping. Here you work in a studio, which is dark, often lights are there, but you are painting in seclusion. You don't know how it will come up, how will it will connect to the audience. All these things are there, still you are performing. So it takes courage to, actually, art lies in uncertainty, have being friendly with uncertainty, and then going ahead, and that is creativity. So both the things, as said, you had said that you never know how it would connect with the audience or the viewers. That is visual art, performed art, or that is literature, performed art. Performing artists have this, obviously I would say, benefits and drawbacks also, of instant reactions. They know that it is being appreciated, it is not being appreciated. They can tweak their responses, their creativity, but we cannot. It has to be created in seclusion, in darkness, then it has
Mhm.
to come out in light, and then people react to it. So that's the difference between performing art and performed art. And visual art lies in the section of performed art.
Yes, yeah, and a friend of mine, Adelaide Demoa, she's a British-born artist with Ghanaian heritage, and she went on this personal journey to move from painting into performance art, and she did this wonderful show called Into the Mind of the Colonizer, and she would then connect with this grandmother, this great grandmother she'd never met. She'd passed away before Adelaide was born, but started to create these cyanotype prints using this one photograph she had of her, and went back to Ghana and on this completely spiritual journey to connect with her and then channel that in the performance art. And all of that is just, that's so powerful to me, and
Yes,
inspiring. And then it makes me want to, it has a ripple effect. It makes me want to connect and learn more about my history and the broader history and all those people who fought for something. And, I recently found a rediscovered book. Now, this book was written in the early 20th century by a man who was born in Manchester to real poverty, and then was in the First World War and couldn't understand what was happening and all of these things. But this book has been recently rediscovered and republished, and I should just happen across this book in the bookshop, and now this book is communicating to me 100 years later, and all of these threads. So
what's the
I've
name
heard.
of the book? What's the
Uh,
name of the book?
it's called Caliban Shrieks. So it's
Oh,
Caliban, Caliban
mm,
Shrieks, Shrieks, and it's by Jack Hilton. Yeah,
okay,
but
I'll read it. Yeah.
this I find that the life of these things never, like you said about the body not being the end. It's like
Mm.
these messages, these expressions, they have a life and they continue to relive, and I love that about art.
Absolutely. Art has very deep impact. A painting can tell something, it'll take thousands of words to say something, and a painting can say the same thing just with few forms and colors and lines and forms, definitely. So this is art has very deep impact. In fact, visually you can, they say audio visual. Why they say audio visual? Why they say, visual has more impact than just the audio or just the writing content. So definitely artworks or art will have more impact on the psyche or mind of the people.
Absolutely. I watched your TED talk, and I've heard you talk about revolutions and ideas beginning through poetry and through art, as opposed to
Absolutely.
you know
In fact, many of them have taken big revolutions, started with art or writing, art and literature, because these big ideas don't start in parliament or any legal institutions. artist tells them that how it should be. He makes them imagine what is the ideal situation. He make draws their attraction, draws their attention towards oppression, and then it starts taking shape. So I would take even manifestos of political parties, or earlier times they were just manifestos of government, to be the part of literature. You know how the manifestos are made, how how the um, thoughts are penned down on in the form of literature in words. Similarly, the thoughts are, drawn on the canvases. Thoughts are drawn on through some sculpture. Both have equal impact.
They do. They do. Yes, I think the form is entirely personal and contextual for the moment also. And I'm interested in the overlap of past, present, and future too. Is this something you think about? Because I think in recent times, when I've felt anxious or a negative emotion, sometimes I will project my mind backwards and draw comfort from a previous experience to give myself a better grasp on something ahead of me. So, do you know, everything seems to overlap. I think it's
Yes.
I find it almost foolish to look at past, present, and future as linear. Does that make sense?
Mm. Yes, a lot, a lot. In fact, past, present, and future are all connected. I emphasized in my TED talk also, which you heard, how, through literature and art, uh, you can reconstruct the past, you can feel the past, you can shape the past. How? Because shaping the past means through these literature and art, you can ignite the feeling of revolution, or you can ignite the feeling of freedom, and it can take shape, and it can grow into a big movement. How it can reconstruct the past, just one example I gave you, how a religious literature is throwing on something which can help part where leather currency was in prevalence. One can emphatically say that how a poet sitting and meditating can visualize such a thing, that leather, when the seal is inscribed on it, becomes worthy, and it is worthless without the seal. It shows the relevance of economic it shows the prevalence of leather currency, and it is relevant for economic historian. Thirdly, how it makes you feel history, as I told you, if history uh, tells you how, I'll rephrase my sentence. If history tells you when it happened, how it happened, art tells you how it felt. So, this is one thing, importance of art and literature in the field of history. Secondly, how past, present, and future are not linear, they are interconnected. As I told you, that till the time we respect our past, we study history, we would not know where we had gone wrong. We would keep repeating those mistakes. We will not change the course of action. We will not follow the actions which were relevant, which were useful to us. We'll discard those practices. So, and our present is going to the power of now. The our present is going to shape the future. So they all are interconnected.
Very much so. And recently I'm 43 now, and I've these last 2 or 3 years have been quite testing, and a lot of existential thoughts and
Mm.
oh god, my god, what happens when I die, and all of these kind of, I had to go through a real moment with that to then move towards Buddhist philosophy and start to really lean into that, which had always been there in my life, but I hadn't ever acknowledged in any way. I hadn't really needed to. Maybe I was too young, running around doing all the things. But now
Mm.
it gives me comfort because I'm my decisions about how I use my energy and my time in this life to create, to make, I think way beyond my lifetime now. And this,
Way beyond my life.
I, I look
Yes.
back, I look back to the past to inform the present, to hopefully make something that will reach out way beyond my lifetime. And that gives me great comfort. Is that's, I have to think that with your spiritual background and the way everything we've talked about today, that you are also aligned with this.
Yes, I am in alignment to this and completely agree. So there is an innate urge in humans to, last longer and longer. That comes from God Himself. Since we are part and parcel of God, and God is immortal, we also try to be immortal, though that's not possible bodily, but soul wise, we are immortal. That is why we are part and parcel of that immortal God. So, our endeavor had always been to last beyond the lifetime. So that is why most of the humans procreate, because they know once they are gone, they live through their children, their DNA will live through them. And secondly, to create something of value which will be relevant in future is very important for an artist. Your art should be timeless. Even if it is within the time, it should convey that deep strong message. I was just studying, since I'm a gallerist now and I have to deal with these old masters, which India is very rich it comes to masters, art masters. We had progressive group where MF Hussain is there, Tayyab Mehta, uh, then Raza, Souza, Bakre, Gadre, all these artists were there. So I have to study their art, because they have, if I have to represent them through my art gallery, I should be knowing more about them. Though I already knew them, but once you are in that field, you need to go deeper and study it more. So I was studying a painting of Tayyab Mehta. He is a world famous artist. In auctions, he sold for huge amount. So I was studying his art, how he created diagonal lines to he created distortion to to show the disturbance. So his paintings are post partition. India went through partition, if you know it, in 1947. So his paintings are about post partition pain. So this post partition pain, through abstraction, how he conveyed it, portrayed it, is magical, is something to be learnt about. And so he's timed in this post partition era, but still it is making us feel the pain of partition. So if history, I would say, is about known facts, art is about the fear, the remorses, and the aspirations of unknown people. you know
Mm-hmm.
that is how that is how I perceive it.
Yeah, me too. And I think that people historically have undermined the arts, and I all the evidence is there about how good it is for the economy, for the soul, for communities, for bringing people together, for powerful ideas. And I personally think that it's more ideological. I think that I see the power. You mentioned revolutions. I see how culture unites people, and I have to think that maybe people don't want free thinking, imaginative societies who can think for themselves and are independent, because maybe that's dangerous. That's how I
Yeah,
see it.
yeah.
But that's just my personal take. But
Yes.
because when I look at my own children and I see the way it illuminates them and the way they just make so naturally, and they are so curious, I have to think that, we'll get there.
In any era, all sorts of art will thrive, be it decorative art, be it just aesthetical art, which would be done to suit your decor. And there will be deep art. Some people will think about poverty, whereas some are thinking about immortality or soul. Some people do ask me that there are so many current issues which can be portrayed. So soul is something after this body thing, but I say that soul is not just after this body thing. Soul is right now present in you, and so many things can be done to nurture the soul. We all are, there are n number of people suggesting n number of things which benefit just the body, but there have to be some people who are talking about this eternal soul. So there will be, in each era, there will be all sorts of artists, and all sorts of art is meaningful, because something will appeal to you, but something will appeal to your wife, something will appeal to your mother. It's not that art has to be consumed by many people, and all the people don't have similar tastes. There can be some different tastes. So it's good that there is all kinds of arts in different eras. That's good.
Yes, and long may it continue.
Yeah.
Well, this has been wonderful, Archana. Thank you very much for taking the time. We covered a lot of ground, and it's
Thank you.
been brought a lot of joy to my day. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much to Dr. Archana Srivastava for taking the time to talk today about spirituality, about depth of artwork, about meaning, about communication, about storytelling, about moving people through creativity. You know that is what I love to do on this show. So what a conversation. Get me your feedback if you've got any thoughts. I would love to hear them at ben@bentalon.com. Tell a friend about the show if you enjoyed it. Drop a little rating, a review. A subscription would be valued. It's all good stuff. Cheers for listening today, guys. Check out the reading list on the website. I've been updating it recently. It's a very diligently curated list to help you to get on top of your creativity. So many topics there covered. The podcast, of course, over 300 episodes strong. In truth, it's over 400 because of all the weird numbering I do. And if you want to work with me directly and you've got a little bit of budget to invest in elevating your creativity and getting you on the right path, I would love to help you do that through my story coaching, through my pit stop session, through my one-to-one ongoing programs. Let's chat. Have an awesome week, guys. I hope you loved the show today. See you next time. Stay creative. Big thank you to the founding sponsor of the show, illustrationx.com, fileco.com, paradisoinstitute.org, and ui.org.ua for the Ukrainian Institute. Big supporters of the show. Wouldn't be possible without them. Catch you next time.